Point Park baseball remains on top, track and field begins the outdoor season, and some unexpected finishes buzz sideline brackets. It's time to come on down to Pioneer Sideline. Good evening and welcome to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Edmi Idalis, back for another week of breaking sports news. To start, Point Park baseball played back-to-back Mountain East Conference doubleheaders this past weekend. On Saturday, the Pioneers went up against Concord University at the Wild Things Park in Washington, Pennsylvania. The weekend started out rough with Point Park losing 11-3. However, the Pioneers quickly bounced back with a win, 8-3. Point Park ended the weekend with a sweep after going up against Glenville State. On the mound for the majority of the first game was Point Park Pioneer Brandard Clifford and GSU Pioneer Cole Grady. Clifford stood out in this game playing 6 innings with 5 strikeouts, 5 hits, and only 2 runs. Grady played for 2.1 innings before he got subbed out for another pitcher. He gave up 4 runs, had 2 errors, and 2 walks. The first inning saw both teams on an even playing field after 1 run batted in each. The third inning is where the favor started to shift towards Point Park. Glenville got 1 sacrifice fly that ended with an RBI, giving them their last run of the game. Point Park then followed that with 3 RBIs, one of them being scored on a throwing error. The next action we saw was in the 5th inning, starting with Jared Campbell's home run down the left field line, resulting in his single run. Luis Gonzalez followed that with a ground out that resulted in an RBI and Joseph Paluski to advance to the second base. The final run of the game was by Paluski running in after Jordan Campbell singled to center field. The game ended with a score of 7-2. On the mound for the second game of the day was Orlando Leon for Point Park and Austin Korn for Glenville. Leon pitched the entire game, ending with 7 strikeouts, 3 hits, and 1 run. Korn pitched 4 innings and was subbed out later in the game. This game was relatively calmer with a total of 3 runs the entire game. Point Park got its 2 runs in the first and third inning, 1 on a throwing error and the second an RBI after Isaac Santana singled to right field. The final score revealed itself in the 4th inning after Glenville got its single run with an RBI. The game ended with a score of 2-1. Point Park left the weekend with an overall record of 16-6 and 7-1 in conference play. Now to Connor Howard for a recap on softball's recent games. Connor?
Thanks, Edmi. Point Park softball had a non-conference doubleheader last Tuesday, taking on the Malone University Pioneers. In Game 1, Melanie Taylor had the only hit for Point Park, which was a grand slam to make the game 4-0. Mia Rose put Malone on the scoreboard with a solo home run in the bottom of the 7th inning to make the final score 4-1. In Game 2, Rose would once again hit a solo home run in the bottom of the 4th inning to give Malone a 1-0 lead. In the top of the 6th inning, Mia Arndt would hit a double into left field to score Taylor and tie the game at 1. In the bottom of the 7th inning, Malone walked it off with a double by Arika Young for a final score of 2-1 to split the doubleheader. Point Park would return to MEC, taking on the Fairmont State Falcons on Saturday, where they would split the doubleheader. Remy Coy would have a 3-run homer in the top of the 3rd inning to give Point Park the 6-5 win in Game 1. In Game 2, Fairmont State would score 5 runs in the bottom of the 5th to give Fairmont State the 8-5 win to split the doubleheader. Point Park would have another MEC doubleheader on Sunday, taking on the Frostburg State Bobcats. Game 1 went into extra innings, and in the bottom of the 10th inning, a sacrifice fly by Hannah Benek scored Sage Haller to give the Bobcats the 3-2 win. In Game 2, Point Park's offense exploded to give them the 8-3 win to split the doubleheader. Point Park will return to action at home tomorrow, taking on the Salem University Tigers in a non-conference matchup with games scheduled for 3 and 5 o'clock. Back to you at the desk, Edmi.
Thanks, Connor. When we come back, more Point Park and local sports. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now for more Point Park sports, we have Ryan Quinn with a report on the first outdoor track meet. Ryan?
Thanks, Edmi. Track and field started their outdoor season with a trip to Charlotte, North Carolina in the 49er Classic. The Pioneers had to compete against D1 and D2 Challen, which resulted in 2 broken school records, 13 top 10 finishes, and a Mountain East Conference Outdoor Track Athlete of the Week. Junior Diamond Rush took home the MEC award with her times in the 100, 200, and 400 meter races. The times of 12:28, 24.75, and 58.32 are top 2 times for the MEC League. Going to the broken records, if you had guessed Cassandra O'Connor, you would be correct, as her time of 36 minutes, 28.72 seconds in the 10,000 meters, now a school record, and got a second place finish. The second record is now in the hands of Luke McKenna in the 5,000 meter open with a time of 15 minutes and 14.12 seconds. Alongside, there were multiple results from the Pioneers that put themselves in the top 5 for their respective events in the school's history. Results-wise, the first place finish for the park was in the 4x800 meter relay for the men with a time of 7 minutes, 52.46 seconds. Other top placements for the team were Akeem Mustafa getting second in the long jump, Kamar Sutherland in the 200 meter with a second place finish, and a third in the 110 meter hurdles. Senior Ez Collins got third in the B group of the men's high jump, and freshman Dunya Van Dan Toren received second in the women's high jump A group. Point Park will be staying local for their next meet, taking a short ride to Oakland for the Carnegie Mellon Invitational. Back to you at the desk, Edmi.
Thanks, Ryan. Now that's all for Point Park sports this week, but what's to come in the week ahead? Track and field's outdoor season continues on March 28th and 29th when the team stays local for the Carnegie Mellon Invitational. Conference play will stay intense for the softball team as they face off on the road against Davidson Elkins on Sunday the 30th, while baseball also face off in an MEC doubleheader on the road against West Virginia State. Get all the news and more on PointParkSports.com and come back next week for Sideline's own Point Park Sports Update. Now, what's happening locally? Peyton Celesti has an update. Peyton?
Thanks, Edmi. The Pittsburgh Riverhounds won their home opener at Highmark Stadium against the Hartford Athletic on Saturday night 1-0, thanks to a late goal from captain Danny Griffin in the 75th minute. Before the game, Kennardo Forbes, the club's all-time leader in appearances and assists, was honored before the match after retiring as a player earlier this month. This was the third home opening win for the Hounds in 7 years, all coming against Hartford. RMU men's basketball was the lone representative from the Pittsburgh area in the round of 64 of the Division I NCAA tournament and were close to creating madness in March as a 15th seed against vaunted Alabama as they took a 65-64 lead later in the second half. But the Crimson Tide offense proved to be too much for the Colonials, winning by a final score of 90-81. RMU will have to rebound next year after Horizon League Player of the Year Alvaro Fulgaris has entered the transfer portal alongside fellow forward Amarian Dickerson. As for the Steelers, Mike Tomlin and company continue to be on Aaron Rodgers' watch as there is still no deal in place. Rodgers visited Tomlin, offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, and general manager Omar Khan on Friday for 6 hours at the Steelers facility in the South Side, but left with no contract. Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio suggested that it is, quote, a safe bet, end quote, that Rodgers will end up in Pittsburgh, but there is no timetable to when he will make his decision. Opening day is approaching for the Pirates this week as they will be going from Bradenton to Miami to take on the Marlins for a 4-game series starting this Thursday. The 26-man roster is starting to unfold with many cuts taking place this weekend. Outfielder Joshua Palacios was designated for assignment, which means Jack Sawinski will be back in the mix in the outfield behind Tommy Pham, Brian Reynolds, and O'Neill Cruz. With catcher and former number 1 overall pick Henry Davis being optioned to AAA Indianapolis, Andy Rodriguez is primed to be the backup catcher behind Joey Bart. Additionally, with prospects Nick York and Billy Cook being sent down and first baseman DJ Stewart not making the team as well, Rodriguez will have the most experience on the roster at first base and is expected to get playing time there alongside Adam Frazier and utility Gold Glover Jared Triolo. As for the bullpen, it's been confirmed that non-roster invitee Ryan Barucki will make the team after looking the best out of their left-handed relievers this spring, while flamethrower Kyle Nicholas, who was developing into a high-leverage reliever last season, will start the season in AAA. The Pirates' matchup with the Marlins on opening day will be significant in terms of the pitching matchup, as it will be the second time in league history that a reigning NL Rookie of the Year, Paul Skeens, will face a former Cy Young winner, Sandy Alcantara of the Marlins. That's all from me. Back to you, Edmee.
Thanks, Peyton. When we come back, more breaking sports news. Stay tuned.
Three, two, one. Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back. Now, Megan Lukic has an update on an insane finish to the NCAA wrestling tournament.
Thanks, Edmee. The NCAA Men's Wrestling Championship that occurred this past Saturday in Philadelphia was nothing short of exciting and historic. With a total of 177 points, Penn State's team won the team championship for the 4th straight season and 13th time in their program's history. The victory marked the 12th national title for Coach Cale Sanderson, who now sits at 2nd all-time in national titles. Penn State got key performances from runner-up Josh Barr coming in at 197 pounds and 2 national champions in Mitchell Messenbrink at 165 pounds and Carter Starachi at 184 pounds. Starachi's victory over the reigning champion from Northern Iowa, Parker Kakaisen, marked his 5th national title, making him the only wrestler in NCAA history to reach that achievement. Starachi would also later be named the NCAA Wrestling Championship's Outstanding Wrestler. But the big story coming out at the end of the night, however, was the heavyweight matchup between Minnesota's Gable Stevenson and Oklahoma State's Wyatt Hendrickson. The number 1 seed Stevenson came into this match with 73 straight victories, as well as 2 national titles and an Olympic gold medal to his name. The 2-seeded Hendrickson transferred to Oklahoma State from the Air Force Academy, where during his time on their wrestling team, he met Stevenson in the 2nd round of the 2021 NCAA Championship, whereas the 17th seed, he was defeated 18-2. With 30 seconds left in the 3rd period of their championship match on Saturday, Stevenson had a 4-2 lead over Hendrickson, but Hendrickson got the 3-point takedown and held on to win 5-4, marking the biggest upset in NCAA history. With this championship win, Hendrickson finished the season 30-0 and earned his 130th career victory. Now to Gabe Ebersole at the desk, who has an update on the March Madness tournament. Gabe?
Thanks, Megan. Through the first 2 rounds, the Madness of March has been kept to a minimum. All top 4 seeds advanced through round 1 for the first time since 2017, and now only a single team over a 6 seed remains. Let's see how some early round action played out in America's favorite tournament. The Michigan Wolverines handled a tough first test in Big West winners UC San Diego, taking a strong 14-point halftime lead to the finish line 68-65. The Big Ten champs would then face the Texas A&M Aggies, where they trailed by 10 with 13 minutes to play. Enter microwave Roddy Gale off the bench. He scores 21 of his 26 points in the second half comeback. With the 91-79 victory, the Maize and Blue take on the top-seeded Auburn Tigers in their next battle. Coach Cal and 10-seed Arkansas are still dancing, stifling Hunter Dickinson in Kansas down the stretch for the first-round upset. They ran with that momentum into the eye of the St. John's Red Storm, winning both halves in the upset of the West number 2 seed. Despite only making 8 threes in their 2 games combined, the Razorbacks leave Rhode Island for San Francisco in a matchup with number 3 Texas Tech. Meanwhile, the Cougs are on a collision course with the Crimson Tide for the first matchup of the 3rd round. Despite a very narrow favoring against VCU to open, BYU held firm control for most of the game en route to an 80-71 win in a meeting with the Wisconsin Badgers. The Badgers gave a battle, namely in the second half comeback attempt, but Richie Saunders' 25-7 lit the path to a Cougar Sweet 16 for the first time since 2011. Universities of Florida, Maryland, and Arizona will look for better efforts, all coming off of round 1 blowouts, followed by narrow round 2 victories. Don't miss the marquee matchups of round 3. Game start at 7:09 EST on the 27th and the 28th. Now, to discuss more on the big dance, I'm joined by Nathan Shivens to give our thoughts. So, thank you, Nate, for being here. Let's start off from the top. Florida was a team that played very close game this weekend. They were one of the highest picked teams to win coming in. What was something that stood out to you in that matchup that was a very battle-tested close game?
Yeah, UConn really, with Dan Hurley, a really great coach for Connecticut. We see just back-to-back national champion coach. They gave it everything they had. They embody him with their toughness and tenacity. And they really dominated that game for large portions of it. But Florida was able to hang around, do their thing for a while, and let Walter Clayton Jr. get hot a little bit. And he kind of cooked in the second half, was able to kind of lead that team to victory. I think it is good for Florida, though, to get battle-tested early because a lot of people are picking them to win the national championship, and they are one of the hotter teams, maybe the hottest team in college basketball. So I think that having that tough game early on against maybe the Houstons or Dukes later on could really pose well for them.
I mean, yeah, they came out and, like you said, it was a pretty close game for a lot of it, but they pulled through. One of the things that stood out to me is they attempted 34 free throws and they shot, I think they made 22, so they're around 60-something% from the line. Taking that many attempts, that's a lot of points to leave there. That's my biggest takeaway, what they need to improve on next game. I like their three-point shooting. They were over 40%. But as a whole, Florida, yeah, I think a battle test for them early, one that they escaped, could bode well for them later on. Now, what about a team like Arizona has to go to Duke now after a close game against Oregon? Do you think that they have a chance in this matchup? Do you think that betters them, or do you think that weakens their spirit going in?
I think they have a chance because they're a very talented team. Now, they've been very inconsistent this season. Caleb Love is their leader, and he's a very inconsistent player. He'll go off for 31 game and then have like 3 points the next. So the key for Arizona, for them to win, he has to have a really great game, and they have to defend at a really high level because Duke is a great defensive team as well as an offensive team. So if they could do that, they could stay in it. I just think it's going to be really hard to defeat the Blue Devils.
Yeah, Duke's a team that's like, they've blown out a lot of teams this year, and when you're talking about battle tests, they're a team that hasn't been battle tested. But interestingly enough, the only team to give them a close game, one of them at least, was Clemson, who got eliminated in the first round. Did you see that upset coming? Was McNeese somewhere on your bracket making a win?
Yeah, well, I didn't pick McNeese to win. My bracket's a joke, but a lot of people were picking McNeese to win because they do. Will Wade coach, obviously they're eliminated now, but now he's going to NC State. He's been a great coach. He was a great coach at LSU. He assembled a really great roster at McNeese, and so they were able to get that huge lead against Clemson. And Clemson was a little shaky at times, but they did go 18-2 in the ACC, so they were a really good basketball team. But the ACC a little down this year, so it wasn't too surprising, but still a pretty good upset.
Yeah, like you said, the ACC down, the SEC up. Do you see the winner being in the SEC, or do you think Duke comes out on top?
I think there's a good chance. I think Houston has a really good chance as well, but I think they're 7 out of 16 Sweet 16 teams. I think SEC could be well represented.
Well, I guess we're going to have to wait and see. To our producer, Jake Bell, for an update on Sideline's own bracket challenge. Jake?
Thanks, Gabe. As the Sweet 16 approaches, it's time to give you all some updates on our Pioneer Sideline March Madness bracket. As you can see, Angelo Esposito is our current leader, as he is the only member of the Sideline crew to reach 500 points so far. He's one of 4 members to choose Florida as their winner, with Megan Lukic, McKenna Smith, and producer Matt Palangi all going with the Gators. Florida is also tied with the most common choice to win the tournament in our bracket, with Houston, Duke, and Auburn all chosen by 4 members each as well. With the lack of major upsets, all but 1 member still has their championship winner alive in the tournament. The Sweet 16 includes all Power 4 matchups, with all 1 and 2 seeds, aside from St. John's, still in the race for the championship. This round of the tournament will be crucial for our members, as producer Bryn Reese currently has the best chance to win at a 13% chance. I am right below her with a 12.5% chance, with Drew Brink and Angelo Esposito knocking on the door with a chance of 8% or more. When the Sweet 16 concludes, we should have even more of an idea of who would win the Pioneer Sideline Bracket Challenge. That's all from me and the rest of us. Back to you at the desk, Edney.
Thanks, everyone. Next, we discuss the state of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Join us for our case of the week after the break.
Welcome back. With baseball season approaching, it's time to see if the Pirates can win the National League Central in what looks to be a make-or-break season for management. I'm joined by Peyton, Nathan, and Ryan Thiele to discuss this. So before I go on the topic of if the Pirates can win the division, first I want to mention how there are a lot of key contributors that helped them reach a 14-point improvement in 2023. Some of those same guys had a down year in 2024 or were hurt, leading to the same results, a 76-win season. Of all the guys that underperformed, who do you guys think needs to bounce back the most for the Pirates to be competitive this year?
Well, based on what the Pirates have done this offseason, they believe their rotation is the strength, and they think that they can improve their bullpen, which really disappointed last year and blew a lot of games. I mean, this would have been an 83, 84, 85 win team if the bullpen was what it was supposed to be. So it all starts with David Bednar. Can he improve? Can he get back to two-time All-Star David Bednar? Or are we going to see more of 2024 David Bednar? And from what I've seen in spring training, not that encouraged, but it's spring training, so let's give it a month. He's replaceable, but I feel like if you have Bednar at the top, that just creates so much more depth throughout the organization, throughout the entire bullpen.
Nathan, you?
Yeah, so I agree with Bednar, absolutely. But I think Ke'Bryan Hayes really needs to step up this year as well. The offense is going to be the big thing to watch for the Pirates this year because we know the rotation. We think the bullpen is going to be improved. But that offense still, I think, leaves a lot to be desired. I think if Hayes can get to somewhere where he was at in 2023, hit around 270, and just play Gold Glove defense still, I think that will be a big boost to this offense. Put him somewhere at 5 or 6 in the lineup and feel confident about it.
Ryan?
So I was going to go Ke'Bryan, but since you said Ke'Bryan, I'm actually going to go with Jack Sawinski. So Palacios is now officially DFA'd. It's time for Jack to step up and do what he was supposed to do. He hits well against the righties, but struggles against the lefties. And we're seeing a little more of a trend in that in spring training again. But you said it before, it is spring training. But there's a player on here that needs to step up into the role that he's now pushed into is Jack Sawinski. And I think it's time for him to step up and be good on both against pitchers on both sides.
And to round it off, I actually put down Henry Davis. I mean, the Pirates drafted him #1 overall, and we all know he is my guy. And we know that he hustles. We know that he cares. He just hasn't put it all together yet. He's someone that the Pirates need to have a successful year for this team to make that next step. And that also transitions to me going into the National League Central. So the Pirates haven't won a division since 1992, and they've never won the National League Central. With the National League Central being weaker than we've seen in recent memory, do you guys think that the Pirates can win the division? Peyton, we'll go with you first.
I mean, it's possible, but I would say very unlikely. The Cubs are going to be in it this year. The Brewers always develop their players well, and they're all, even when they lose guys, they come back stronger. And then I think the Cincinnati Reds are going to be a sneaky team as well, with Terry Francona at the helm. My issue with the Pirates is, number one, the rotation, losing Jared Jones for a significant amount of time. Who knows when Bubba Chandler and Thomas Heaney or Thomas Harrington are going to be here. So is that rotation going to be as strong as we think? Is David Bednar going to bounce back? And most importantly, though, I just don't think this offense, they didn't add enough this offseason. And you're just you're doing a lot of wishful thinking with Key Brian Hayes and Jack Sawinski, both who have their own separate issues. But I think if Endy Rodriguez, you talk about Henry Davis, I think if Endy Rodriguez really steps up behind the dish and at first base with Spencer Horwitz out, that could be the spark the Pirates could get this year.
Nathan, what about you?
I largely agree with you, Payne. Yeah, I think it's possible. I think there's a chance just because the NL Central's so wide open, but I don't see it happening. This offseason, it was year 6. Like you said earlier, it's a make-or-break season for Ben Cherington, for Derek Shelton, for management, and they have that kind of offseason, bringing in Tommy Pham as their big outfielder. I just don't think this offense has improved drastically enough to compete in the National League, which has a lot of very viable teams. And I just think in their own division, the Cubs had Kyle Tucker, the Pirates had Tommy Pham. That's such a big difference and such a gap. I think the rotation will keep them in it for a while, but I don't see it happening. I think they fade a little bit in September.
So I'm actually going to disagree with both of you. I have the Pirates winning this division. Look, I get what you're saying about the Cubbies adding Kyle Tucker, but that was their only move this year. Cincinnati Reds, yes, they have this great manager, but now all the pressure is on Ellie De La Cruz now, which we all know that. Now, can a young stud like that keep the pressure on him and play good all year? In years past, we haven't seen that. So I feel like the Reds are going to sink because without Ellie De La Cruz, they can't do anything. Now let's move on to Milwaukee. Milwaukee has lost more than they gained this year. Yes, they have a lot of young studs, which we do as well. But Milwaukee lost a lot of talent this offseason. A lot more than what they think they lost. So they're going to struggle throughout the season. I actually have Milwaukee being the worst team in this division. So the reason I have the Pirates winning. Look, Paul Skeens just came out with a long quote on MLB.com, in which saying that he said the city deserves it. And this team feels like the city deserves it. This is a motivated Pirate team. First motivated team since I remember, since middle school when we went on that insanity run. So I think that this is a motivated Pirate team with a strong core, and only Jared Jones being out for 6 to 8 weeks is not going to kill us. So let's be honest. I think the Pirates could win a division. Are we going to do anything beyond that? Probably not, but we do have a chance to win.
Here's the thing, though. Do you see this Pirates team with that offense scoring or winning 90 games? Because to win a division, you have to win at least 90 games.
I don't
typically.
think in the NL Central you do.
You don't need to win 90 games in the NL.
I think you have to win 90 games.
Not in our division. When we have,
agree.
honestly, one of the worst division in baseball, minus the AL Central.
I think you're underestimating the Cubs and
we can
and
win
the
this division with 88
and
wins.
the Reds.
The Cubs only made one move. I mean, Kyle Tucker's a big move, but that's all they did. I don't think they're going to go from potentially a sub-500 team to easily a 90-win team. I just don't see that happening.
Well, the Pirates, I don't see them winning 90 games. Look, the bullpen can get as good as it can get, but this offense can't just be the bullpen getting better. The offense has to get better, and I don't see that happening with their development.
Well, that's all the time we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer sideline.